Hey guys, just grab a pamphlet. Yep, and if you're doing the quarterly challenge, fill out a ticket. All right, guys, hopping into marketing boot camp. So I sent out a couple emails about this. Basically, what we're going to do is, when it comes to marketing, we're going to cover three major areas of agent marketing. One is going to be the what we call farming, geo farming, and we're going to call this smart farming because it's a little bit different than what you've been taught in the past for marketing when it comes to farming. The other is basically from a marketing point of view, how you generate business, and then once you get that business generated off of an ad, a sign, internet lead, web lead, how you convert that in a conversation. And in one of my promo videos, I actually met with Realtor.com, and they have a program, depending on what number you call in, the customer calls in, they actually record some of those conversations. And so he played me some of the worst phone calls of a client had a listing on, saw a listing online, calls the agent to get information, and you'd almost feel like the customer calling in was bothering the agent. The agent just did not want to talk to him, kind of thing. So it was just interesting. So we got some good dialogues how to handle incoming ad calls, sign calls, internet leads. There's also a little aspect of direct marketing. So there's some direct response marketing you guys can do. And then the third component is the just listed, just sold. I talked to a lot of agents about just listed, just sold cards, and most agents do it incorrectly. They kind of push out a just listed, just sold card, and that's it. That's the extent of their marketing, and then they wonder why it didn't work. So we'll kind of go over a formulation, kind of a business plan of how to make the most of your just listed, just sold. All right. So hopping off the bat, any questions before I start? All right. There's always these course overviews. So this is on page 3. So what we're going to be talking about is from a marketing point of view, and the farming's a little bit different than our general marketing. And also, I've included at the back of your brochure, there's a program called an 8x8 touch program that we're going to get into. All right, so financial consequences. Agents just love to see spreadsheets like this, right? They make a whole lot of sense. Not really, but so what this does is this breaks down a smart farm campaign. If it's done correctly, some of these are the results. Again, sales price is different because this is coming from a Texas marketplace. But these are the results you should expect. Out of year 1, you have a 250 person farm, 250 addresses. Total number of prospects, 250. So we're going down column 1. That's year 1. Total number of mailers would be 3,000. That is, I believe that is 12 mailer. That's 250 times 12. Is that correct? Yeah. Anyone got a calculator? Yep, that's correct? Mm-hmm. All right. I was not a math major.
That's for the year?
Yep, that's for the year. The cost of the mailers, he's got here 50 cents. I would budget a little bit more because I think you want to do a little higher end mailer. I think you're probably going to be closer to the 85 cents a mailer range. So if we take that 85 cents as opposed to 50 cents, 25 times 3,000. So that's your yearly budget would be 2,550. If you have a conversion rate of 1%, basically of the mailings you've sent out, you get 1% conversion rate. That would lead to 3 transactions. Average sales price, pop your own average sales price in. Our office average is 400 times a commission rate. Our office average is 2.54. So 400K times 0.025. That's 10,000 times 3, so that's 30,000 in GCI. what they also, the bottom line is also very important in this, is that there's a reinvestment percentage. Because one of the things that you want to do when you are building a farm is keep reinvesting back into that farm. Um, and it's funny when we talk with agents, we coach with agents, and we also talk to other people who sell stuff to agents. And I hear this line over and over again: if I only get one deal, it'll pay for the program. Um, and what you want to do is you want to look at just like any business would, any investment you're going to make in your business. It should have a return. It could be a short-term return, it could be a long-term, but also you want to use that return to fund your business, keep it going forward. So what they recommend, moving into column 2, is a 25% investment. So 25% of 30,000. That's 7,500. So if you were gonna, and the way they calculate this is the line total number of mailers. That is basically based off of your total investment. So if you had a total investment of 7,500, our mailers are 0.85 each. So we would want to move our mailers up to 8,823 mailers in a year. So that would be 735 person farm. So what it is you're basically using the money you generate out of your farm, reinvest it back in the farm to widen and broaden the farm or to create more farm areas. But again, it's one of these things is you're paying for it through the revenue you're generating in this business model. So this isn't a kind of what a lot of our business models seem to be is like throw money at a problem, hope and pray it works. If we get some money back, awesome, we paid the bill. And if we get a couple of extra deals, great. What you want to do is really start tracking your numbers, especially when you're going in for a farm area. Because there's going to be some matrices and some numbers that are going to be popping out of this farm area that you really want to pay attention to. And as you go along, you're going to create your own conversion numbers, right? You're going to know what that conversion rate is. You might have a higher conversion rate, but I think 1% is a pretty good conversion rate. However, one thing you want to look at is most agents don't do all the things to even get their conversion rate up to 1%. So we'll talk about those extra things you need to do to make your farm area work. Any questions on this? Hit you with numbers first thing in the morning, right? Okay. Next is the farming plan. So for those of you guys who've taken the Momentum series, we talk about a know, do, have. You have to know certain things, you have to do certain things, and you have to have certain things to be able to implement your program. So basically, this is your smart farm system. What we're doing is we're looking for prospects. What you need to know area turnover rate. And I'll go into, we actually do even a little bit higher level on this with you guys. Solicitation dialogue and a move-up buyer dialogue. What you need to have. So at the end of your brochure, you've got this 8x8 postcard campaign. This is one we did in the referral bootcamp. Neighborhood update cards, neighborhood website, and a tracking sheet. All right, so we're going to hop into those. So smart farm basics. Okay, so for those of you who've tried a farm or talked to people who've done farms, why do y'all think farms fail?
Not enough follow-up.
Not enough follow-up. Okay. Yeah.
Or the farm itself isn't turning over?
Yeah.
Not the right farm.
Yeah. That's it exactly. Any other reasons you guys have heard why farms fail?
Well, some areas are a little inundated with too many agents.
Yep.
So the competition in that particular location is just high.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's two things. One is picking the right farm, and that's to Sierra's point was the not enough turnover. You got to have a farm that has a viable turnover. And then to Nancy's point is walking into a farm that has a king or queen sitting on that farm. You've got to unseat them. So that's an uphill struggle. And then the flip side of that is us. We're not consistent enough. We have all the best intentions. We send a mailer. We send another one 4 months later. Then we send two in 6 months later, and then we don't send another one for 8 months, and then we wonder why it didn't work. So we've got to be consistent about it. Okay, so starting off at the top, why to mail? You need a lead generation system that works in your business even when you're not. We talk a lot about sphere-based business, which I think is always the best business model. But sphere-based business, you got to put sweat equity into it. You are contacting your folks. You're creating relationships and maintaining those relationships. A farm is a little on the passive side, right? If you're doing all the right things, you expose yourself to that farm, sometimes the phone will just ring. So note, a downward shifting market provides a great opportunity to establish the number one position in a farm area simply because a lot of agents are either going out of business or are drastically reducing their expenses. Do you guys get as much mail as you got 8 years ago? 9 years ago? As far as from marketing from agents, do you see a lot of marketing from agents in your mailbox?
Not as
You do?
much.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely do not. I mean, I used to get a lot. So I think there's been a pullback in when it comes to mail, and I think mail is still a viable option. So what to mail? And we'll get into these. There's neighborhood update cards, and we have a template for how to do those. And also, there's this 8 and 8 listing postcards can be mailed to in advance to increase conversion rate. All right, so let's talk about that. So in the back of your pamphlet, I've got an 8x8 marketing plan. So this is straight out of Hobbs Herder. You guys ever heard of Hobbs Herder?
I love him.
Yeah. So they're old school marketing geniuses, and they did a study where they went into a neighborhood, and they took a survey of the neighborhood and basically figured out that there was no dominant agent within that marketplace. So then they started a campaign. They took a fictitious agent and basically over 8 postcards over 8 weeks mailed to this neighborhood with this fictitious agent's information and a message about this agent. Then they followed up with the similar survey and figured out that that agent had now gained number 1 market share within just 8 weeks of mailing. He didn't even exist. So there's this 8 and 8 program that basically it's kind of like a full court press to get your name in front of a marketplace. It's definitely a steeper investment, and I tell you one thing I've seen has worked is usually in a spring market, an 8 and 8 works well because people are starting to percolate the ideas of moving are high on their mind. That sometimes an 8 and 8 within a spring marketplace or early spring market is much more effective than maybe doing an 8 and 8 in November. In all honesty. So one thing you can do is we talk about 12 months mailers, but also priming the pump with this 8 and 8 program to start off your farm campaign. Okay, so where to mail, right? Choose a neighborhood that, number 1, has a potential turnover rate of 5% or greater. Total active listings for previous 12 months divided by total homes in the neighborhood. Number 2 is conducive to the average sales price you desire.
Share what page you on?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on page 6. And is not currently dominated by another agent. So one thing we've done to try to help agents out, we use a program called Broker Metrics. Looks like this. It's basically a program we use that we can analyze results within a neighborhood. Because it's funny, I'll ask agents, when we start talking about, hey, I'm looking at starting a farm, and I'm thinking about this neighborhood. But, Gary Smith just owns this neighborhood. And we actually go in here, and I'm like, he's only sold 1 home, and he was on the buyer side of that transaction. So you really want to have that data in your mind as to who's really selling in that neighborhood. And we look at the average price point too. For instance, we were looking at, so I did an example of Belpre Woods versus Wheaton Hills. Belpre Woods, 936 tax IDs. Wheaton Hills, 938. Almost identical in the size, right? And that's important to know because when you're mailing out to these neighborhoods, right, that's a fixed expense because you're mailing every month. So that postcard, it's going to cost, whether it's $1 million home or a $200,000 home, the postcard's still going to cost you the same. But these were similar in number of tax IDs. But Belpre Woods had 42 transactions in the last 12 months. Wheaton Hills only had 32. So there was basically 10 more transactions to be had in Belpre Woods than there were in Wheaton Hills. I didn't break it down, and you can even look at average price, sales price, because maybe it even had a higher average sales price, which would have made it a better neighborhood. The other thing we're going to look at is who's the dominant agent in the marketplace, and potentially why they're dominant. Sometimes they're dominant because they do short sales, and that neighborhood was hit by short sales. Or sometimes it's dominated by an agent, but they're on the downslope of their career and they are doing less and less every year. So sometimes we look back even further than the last 12 months, even further than the last 2 years, to see who's done what and how they've done it in that neighborhood. Other things we look at is some neighborhoods are, you see this turnover. Everyone kind of moved in when their kids were in elementary school, and then it's 15 years later, and now we're starting to see them come out of the woodwork and starting to sell, looking to downsize, or in some cases upsize. Some people do. But there's some neighborhood dynamics that you want to look at. In some of these you'll see there's a big hunk of original owners still in there. But the timing, they've basically been in there 15, 20, 25 years. That group might be turning over. So there's a way to even target market within a tax ID area exactly which homeowners you want to hit. Any questions on that? Kind of how to select a farm? Have you guys done farming before?
I use it on my listing presentation. I didn't show them that, but I did the broker metrics, and I asked them who they thought was the dominant agent in the neighborhood.
And were they right?
No. And that's why I said I could see how you would think that, but actually you're not right. Let me tell you who the dominant agent that would be. No, I don't.
Right.
No, I just kind of went through.
I'll give you 3 guesses as to who the dominant agent is.
But just having that spreadsheet, they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I can't share that with you, unfortunately. But I can tell you that, that no one owns this neighborhood.
Yeah. Right.
From that, I'm sorry, it's everybody else may know this. That from the MLS, can you get you can get all that information,
Mhm.
right?
Yep. I mean, you don't need this program at all. I mean, you can pretty much get it all from looking at the past sales.
Okay, but yeah, because you can pull it up by the subdivision, and then you can pull it up by tax ID as well. Or no?
You just do a different search for the tax ID.
I might need it.
Yeah, and it's pretty simple. But again, we try to guide some people on the farm areas that they do select so that you do select the right one. Again, in here, they've got this 5% or greater turnover rate. And I'd say that's a little bit of the art to this, because we do have a high average sales price that sometimes I'd be willing to accept a lower turnover rate if the sales price is high enough, right? Does that make sense? Because again, if you get, even if you go into marketplace and you get 2 deals, but the average sales price is $600, that's pretty strong. How to mail. So we talked about this starting off with the 8 and 8 to all new prospects. Following 8 and 8 with the neighborhood update postcards. These are 12 months of neighborhood updates. And then 3, consistently adding new prospects by reinvesting at least 25% of the funds received from farm-related transactions. So this is what we're talking about, that 25% reinvestment back into a farming system. And again, you don't necessarily have to reinvest, but it's just a good idea. If you start getting proficient at farming, it's good to use the income you're getting from that farming to keep doing more. Okay, so when to mail. Again, we talked about the 8 and 8. Mail 1 card per week for 8 weeks. And then number 2 is the neighborhood update postcards. So these are mail 1 card per month forever, beginning in the 3rd month if you're doing the 8 and 8. Again, what we talked about is most agents just aren't consistent with this. So this is the reason why if you're going into a farm, don't go in with a unrealistic idea that, okay, I need to get some success in the first 3 months because that's all my budget will allow for. And then if I don't have success in the next 3 months, I'm just going to have to scrap this program. You want to go in confident, realizing that this is a long-term investment, and you may not see results for 18 to 24 months. If you do it right, I think you're going to see results a lot sooner than that. But you have to look at this as a long-term investment.
How do you decide what to put on the cards?
So That's a great question. Here we go. So next page, page 7. Neighborhood update cards, and here put an asterisk at this top line under neighborhood update cards. The less information the card contains, the more likely it is to read. Can you guys repeat that with me?
The less information the card contains, the more likely it is to be read.
Right, exactly. You don't need to put so much information on this card. Keep it simple, right? We're in the Google age of the world where, everything, people just want crisp, clean information right off the bat. They don't need a whole lot of other information at this time. Again, what you're trying to do is get them to read it, right? And what you're doing is it's basically subdivision name at the top, August activity, number of homes sold, number of homes available, average sales price, average list price. For more information, for more details or to answer any of your real estate questions, please call me. However you want to design that part of it, but it's just real simple, right? So that's what most people want to see is just what's going on in their neighborhood, price-wise. They don't necessarily want a lot of other superfluous real estate information at this time. Again, if you're trying to build your brand in front of people, this is a card people might look at. Anyone tried one of these cards before? Yeah.
Is this too much information?
Let me see. Just bring in your own stuff. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Can I pass this around? So this is Lavina's.
What about the size?
Yeah, make it big.
Yeah, I think the bigger you can make them, the better. Again, that's going to come down to kind of what your budget is.
Right.
I'd much rather you, if it came down to shrinking your farm versus having a much bigger card, I'd go with a little cheaper card just to get something
Oh,
out.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, you're trying to just brand yourself to them.
I've
gotten lots of calls.
Yeah, if you look at the size of Sensations postcards, they're keepers.
Yeah.
And they have catchy. I have a neighbor. She keeps like every one of those stupid little recipes. But the size is really good, and sometimes they can get lost between your mail.
Right. What size
Yeah.
are those? Same.
And
This is
It's
4 by
like
6.
3x5. You need to go up.
Yeah, and one of the things we talk about in the program is once you start building your farm and once you start getting some marketing going, then you can start doing actually quarterly newsletters or quarterly cards that are a little more promotion about you. And I think those should definitely be of higher quality. Because I always tell people it's, sellers, the first time you're handing them your professionally done brochure is usually after you have the listing and you've done all of your work and it's basically the house is on the market. But you want to try to get folks your marketing information ahead of time. Almost let them pre-interview you with your marketing material. So that's the reason I'm a big fan of getting something really high quality in front of people. But when it comes to farming, again, these people don't know you, so they're not going to quickly associate branding with you. What they're looking for is information, and this is going to be a little bit of a slow drip. That's the reason why I think the information about the home sales should be first and foremost as opposed to marketing about me. Make sense? All right. To increase your results, Mail just sold summary cards to your farm area quarterly, summarizing all of your transactions from the previous 3 months. Such information validates productive behavior and communicates a powerful message. So, to your farm area, even if those are sales that weren't within the farm area, you can send quarterly either newsletters or kind of this is what I've sold in the last 3 months, or this is what I've sold year to date, or whatever.
Can you use sale from the office? Does it have to be just you, or how does it?
Yeah, in theory, you could use office sales. You'd want them, as much as you can do on your own production, the better. Yep. Anyone send out brag cards like that? Yep. Yep. Well, hopefully once we get to, once you've done the farming, you'll have plenty to brag about. Okay, a quarterly farming postcard. So this is what they have in the advanced approach, what we're talking about, this almost like a newsletter. Once you've firmly established yourself as one of the superior agents in a neighborhood, you should market those results periodically with self-promoting postcards. Quarterly cards are added to monthly mailings. So again, why to list with Susie Realtor? Results speak for themselves. Susie Realtor, 99% listings sold. Sales price to list price ratio, 98.3. Average days on market, 63. She took that and compared it to the average agent in the marketplace. So, use your statistics. Know what your statistics are. I recently did one for those guys who've been through the pricing boot camp. I did one for price per square footage, and two of my listings this year, one is number one in the marketplace for price per square foot, and the other is number two. So I'm going to put out a card to my sphere of influence and let them know, hey, this is, even though it wasn't the highest price, I'm going for highest price per square foot. So whatever stat you think works for your advantage, use that one. And we can help you with some of that, coming up with ideas. Susie's unique approach makes all the difference. So this is where it kind of gets a little superfluous. And she's got in here, uses a unique 7-step strategy to ensure all her listings sell. Any questions on that? So just kind of overview of the program real quick. 8x8 is the priming the pump. It's not necessarily, but it's a good way to start a farm area. After that, monthly cards, basically a snapshot of what happened last month in the neighborhood. Once you've done that, this is kind of the next level up, is adding in a quarterly newsletter into the marketplace about your results. All right. Moving on to page 8.
That was 8.
I'm sorry, 9. Thank you.
I'm paying attention.
You are. Okay, so page 9, here's why most farms fail, right? Is that people will not do page 9. And this is one that scares the hell out of me if I had to do this as well. But I think this is where the money is going to be made. Is usually, passive systems are great, but it's the proactive actions that you take that actually it's 2 hands squeezing that orange, right? Really makes a difference. So this is actually doing quarterly calls into the farm area. Quarterly calls should be made to all the residents of your farm area to sustain a recognizable and dominant presence. All right. Anyone want to role play this with me?
I'll tell you who was the best of this. Kevin, Kinsey, and Mark.
Yes.
They were the bomb.
Yep.
I mean, you just see them in there all day. Boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
And just listening to them, you could learn a lot. Just sit by their door.
Yep. And so what they always had was they always had a script, and they also tracked their numbers. Because when you track your numbers, you know what to expect. And you start getting almost, you guys will hear a lot of no's you'll get hung up on. People will tell you, don't ever call me again. But you got to realize you got to hear all those no's to get to a yes. And you want to do this with me?
Joe, quick
Yeah.
question. When you're doing farming, how do you get their phone numbers? Is there a particular place you can get their numbers from?
What are you guys using?
Tax records, a lot of them have the right phone number, or just do the phone book and look it up.
I find somebody who lives in the neighborhood and get their directory, or get access to their
Oh, I've done
to
that.
their Facebook page or something in that neighborhood. There's always something in the neighborhood that has everybody's name and number on it.
Right.
Usually has their kids' names and everything. Then you got something to talk about.
Okay. Whitepages.com. There's some reverse searches you can do. What's that? It is. Yep, and that's why most farms fail. And that's, again, I think if you want to take an advanced approach, the calls is going to be important. You got to find some way to get face-to-face.
Door knocking?
What's that?
Door knocking and
Do-
use the same script?
Door knocking is another great way.
Well,
Yep.
the other thing is to put it into contractually, and then either keep up with the little message or a phone call. Once you start tracking the neighborhood and you get it, then you have it.
All right, so this is how this call is going to go. Ellen, you're going to be my farm area person. Yes, because you're typing.
That's because
Okay.
she's distracted.
Hi, this is Joe Buffington with Remax Realty Center. I'm simply calling around the neighborhood to see if you may know anyone at this time who's interested in buying or selling real estate. Have you been receiving my monthly postcards?
Of course I have, Joe.
Right on. Did you find the information beneficial?
Yes. Of course I have.
What other information would you find helpful?
Is this really the regular script?
This is right on page 9.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know why I asked that. Find the information beneficial, but okay.
What would you say then?
Well, I usually engage people when they call me because
Uh-huh.
What do you mean by beneficial? But then I would bring something up like my neighbor's house my neighbor's house just sold. I don't think she got what she wanted.
Why do you think she didn't get what she wanted?
What she told me.
Okay.
It's a lot less than list price. I think my house is worth more than that.
Right on. Are you considering selling your home?
Well, for the right price.
All right. Well, that time is today. Okay.
I make calls, okay?
Yeah. And then I'm closing for an appointment at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the one, again, with a lot of these calls, if you find a client like that who is engaging like that, you want to just close for an appointment. You don't want to sell them over the phone. You will never sell anyone over the phone or list a house over the phone. It will only happen at their dining room or kitchen table. So yeah, close for appointment. Yep.
Moral of that story is, I always have the neighborhood up when I'm making those calls. So if they hit me with something,
Yep.
Right, you can
right
tap
there.
into it.
Yep. Yep. And be curious always. That's the reason I was asking. Well, why did I get? What was it? Something. It was.
My neighbor didn't get what she wanted for her house.
Right. Dig in. Figure out what that means. Because it may have been. She may tell you. This agent is underselling the neighborhood. You ever heard that one before? So you want to dig in and how are they doing that? Why is that happening? Just get that information because that'll be some hot buttons to tell you what they are not looking for in their next agent. So when you build your presentation, you got to be cognizant of that.
People do say that.
Say,
this agent is just underselling the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, why do you think she keeps getting hired? What is it?
And what do they say?
And they say, I don't know. I'm like, well, let's talk about that. That's
Let's talk about that.
Right. Have you guys ever called into your farm areas? Just done this? Okay. Good success, bad success. What's been the feedback?
Getting somebody home.
Okay.
That's
Do
the hard
you leave
part.
a message on the voicemail if you get it?
Yeah, but they never call you back.
Yeah.
That's why I wondered if you still do.
The direction of the conversation usually ends up with me, I feel like, helping them in ways that, like, it's always ends up saying, oh, well, I've been doing this project and I need, or I want to do a project or whatever, so they need, like, resources.
Well,
And
that's
it's okay, but they never, and I never.
well. Here's the question you want to ask, and that's have you ever considered selling your home?
Well, yeah, I do.
Okay.
It sounds like you're preparing your home for sale.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where and again, a lot of it is you do call up. The conversation go 100 different ways, but a lot of it is you just want to figure out are they in the selling mode or are they just in information gathering mode? Yep.
Well, the ones I have.
Well, the thing is, if you refer them to somebody that you know that you work with all the time, then you can call that person and find out what they're really doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You could be referring to the same painter all the time.
All right. I'm going to skip over the move up buyer dialogue. I think this quarterly call dialogue is a good one. And again, you want to figure out if they're getting your stuff. And what you'll find is some people will absolutely, they're going to love the stuff you're sending them. Most people are going to be oblivious to what you're sending them, which is okay. But the phone call is going to prep them that you are sending them something, right? And the next time, they're going to be looking out for your stuff potentially. Or at least they're going to have a heightened awareness. And that's kind of part of the dialogue here. All right, any questions about that? All right. So next step, we talked about sending out the cards, making phone calls, right? Making phone calls. And then the third phase of this with a smart farm is neighborhood websites. And I think almost even if they don't have one, is a neighborhood Facebook page. Could be another valuable resource. So simple neighborhood website serves as virtual newsletters and a great way to add value to area residents. or a neighborhood Facebook page if they don't have one already set up. Properly maintained neighborhood websites or Facebook pages are time consuming and should be considered only after hiring full-time marketing coordinator. So if you are going to do it, make sure you understand either you're going to be the content provider and you got to do it on a consistent basis or it will not work, or you got to make sure you've hired someone who can do that. So neighborhood website Facebook content should include interesting and valuable real estate articles, neighborhood pricing updates. So what you want to do is and I'm big on your branding should kind of cross each of the platforms that you're using. So your postcard that you're doing, your monthly update postcard, if like Lavina's case, she's got black background and red on top. Whatever you post on that Facebook page or website should be that same kind of branding. It should look, because what you're trying to do is also get visual clues to them because they're getting your stuff over and over again in the mail. Now they saw this on Facebook, and now they're actually mentally, even though they never read what your postcard said, but they saw the red and black, now they see red and black on the Facebook page. Now they're starting to make some connections. Tax advantages of move up, property tax information, how to contest property taxes, mortgage information, updated vendors lists, personal advertisements, testimonials, your personal listing and selling statistics, free lists. And those free lists are, I've got a list of foreclosures. PM me if you're interested, because you want to take those offline. Because if you post those free lists, no one's going to contact you. Inspirational stories, recipes, neighborhood activities you conduct, food drives, Halloween parties, block parties, Children's Miracle Network, charity gala event, things like that. Anyone ever started a neighborhood Facebook page?
I have the next door, Emerald Farm next door.
Okay, what's that?
I guess they started somewhere else, and then everybody can get that, and it's free. And you can. The only thing you cannot do on next door basically is advertise yourself, but you can give information as the source, like all these market updates and events and stuff you can put over there, but you just don't officially say, I'm a realtor, contact me.
Mm-hmm.
You can give important information.
Okay.
And then it communicates with the whole, like I started it for the Emerald Farm, and then it gets connected with different neighborhoods through next door.
You have to be invited in
Yes, you have to
by another
be
neighbor.
invited.
There's an Ashton next door.
Okay.
Postcards or flyers. So when I go walking, I just drop the flyers.
Okay. Great. All right.
That's how I get their email addresses.
Okay. Their email addresses are on there. Okay. All right. So that's the neighborhood websites, and that's smart farming. So that's kind of part one. Any questions on the smart farms? Anyone interested in doing farms? I'd highly encourage it in this day and age. Again, I think with print, I don't see a lot of people doing farming, and I see some people actually who've done it consistently, finding success with it.
We do the Marketing Matters program too. If you don't want to do anything, they'll just do it all for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So what is that program?
The Home Life, remember she came out to
Yep.
the meeting and talked to us about that. They do the neighborhood newsletter with the market update. They send it out, you pick a sphere, and then if they are mailing to that neighborhood with their Home Life program, they won't mail to anybody else. They won't allow another agent to use their program to mail to the neighborhood. So you get some exclusivity. And, their rates are great, and I branded this is actually the first time I've ever farmed. Okay. Never did it before, but I'm doing it now. Watsana, who does my marketing, actually branded the piece, so it looks exactly like all the other stuff that I send out. So it doesn't look like the Home Life that Marketing Matters, their program, set up. So they were able to modify it to match my other marketing materials.
Cool. Yep. All right. The next phase is that incoming call. So you're doing the marketing out there. You've got, if you're doing Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, you've got marketing out there, or you're doing an ad, or you've got a sign up. This is those incoming calls. And what this talks about in the financial consequences page 11, For those of you all, again, if you once you get used to some of the momentum stuff, there's almost always this financial consequences. Kind of looking at phases as we get better at incoming calls, excuse me, and as we track our results, we should start seeing some numbers pop up, right? For every 100 conversations we have with a client, it should equal 15 appointments set with those people. Of those 15 appointments, does everyone show up for every appointment? No. So we have some fallout, right? So of those 10 show up, and of those 10, 3 list with us. So you should, as you're building your business, track some of these numbers, track the results. So then, because that's the problem is we sometimes sit here in our business and we're not sure, are we doing the right things or not doing the right things? And then we apply effort, and then we just don't get that feedback right off the bat. But if you have some numbers that work, it's always good to kind of fall back on those numbers that, okay, I'm just, it's not that my efforts aren't working. It's the fact that I just haven't done enough yet. I just need to keep doing this a little bit longer because the percentages might be low. A conversion rate on this might be a low conversion rate. All right, so that's 11. 12 is the plan behind the incoming call. So you've got your marketing out there, yard signs, internet ads. So this is called Label the Caller System. What we're going to do is, what you need to know is the greeting dialogue, the labeling dialogue, and then potentially the justification dialogue. And the things you need to have is, hopefully you have a listing that people would be calling in on, and then a tracking sheet. Alrighty. So page 13 is check your attitude. So these are kind of core beliefs. We go through a lot of these core beliefs again in momentum. And what we'll do is skip down to the bottom of this, the buyer beliefs. And again, when a buyer's calling in, number 1 is time reveals all. Whether you know it or not, time will reveal if this is a good or bad buyer to be working with. So if time reveals it, why not be more proactive to make sure that you're not just waiting either what could be 15 minutes to figure out if this is the right buyer or 15 months to figure out that this is not a viable buyer. Motivated, qualified, and loyal people buy homes. So again, we want to qualify these buyers before we start just running out and showing them properties. And I'd say even in today's day and age with the new agency laws, I think it becomes even more critical that we are having a meeting with them, because we're going to have to make that decision. Either they're a buyer and they have to sign a buyer broker, or we represent the seller. Having a process reduces the risk that comes with buyers, right? And buyers, if you look at kind of the ledger, the listing side is kind of check equity. The buyer side is a lot of sweat equity. I mean, there's times you can put a lot of effort into buyers and they wind up driving you all over the place and then deciding they don't want to do anything. They're going to rent another year. And a lot of that is, it's our own fault for not making sure we've qualified these people well enough. If they won't meet with me, they're not a buyer. And A buyers, right, our A-level buyers deserve my immediate attention and time. Again, once you've done a right qualification, then these are the people I should be having in my car right now. Okay. So page 14, again, we talked about that realtor.com story. Again, this is like the typical agent dialogue, Anyone want to do this with me? Sarah? Alrighty.
Typical or the caller?
Can you be typical? Yep. I'm calling about 123 Easy Street.
What would you like to know?
What are they asking for it?
The list price is $150,000.
How many bedrooms?
That home has 4 bedrooms.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
All right.
No
Have a good day.
Oh,
Did
they really
the
do
reason
that?
I was like hesitant is because I looked in and I was like, wow, this is totally not the right thing. So I was like, wait,
Good.
should I do this or not? I read ahead and that's why I was so hesitant to start.
Yeah. And again, sometimes what happens is, and I think for all honesty, I think we're very ethical agents. And I think in all honesty, when we find someone who's, they're not interested in that list, let's say it's one of our listings, someone calls in on it. If they're not interested in it, sometimes our conversion brain doesn't switch over, right? We're information givers, right? Do you want to buy this house? Do you want to buy this house? Basically, I'm providing you information to figure out if you want to buy this house. You don't want to buy it? Okay,
Let me find you something else.
right. And this is what we talk about is basically,
Don't be realtor 411.
what's that?
I remember somebody said, "Don't be realtor 411."
Don't be realtor.
You're not supposed to be given information. That's not your role.
Right. You know, and for your listings, obviously you want to qualify to figure out if this is the right listing for them. But once you figure out it's not, then we shift gears. And that's the one thing is just making sure that shift happens. The goal of an effective property call is not only to reveal information, but also to label exactly where the caller is in the home buying process. Therefore, when someone calls regarding a listing, your goal is to answer any and all questions, right? Identify exactly where they are in the process, and that's the labeling. And then close and or follow up accordingly, depending on where they are in the process. Okay, so providing information. Your first obligation is to provide the caller with information they seek, right, on your listing. Someone's calling for you about information on a property, chances are good that they are also calling other agents, right? Thus, the way you answer the phone and converse with callers is a great opportunity to distinguish yourself from the competition, right? So you want to be doing stuff that's not typical. When answering the phone, sound positive and upbeat. Callers must perceive that you sincerely want to help them. When answering callers' questions, always follow your answer with another question, right? This approach keeps you in control and the caller engaged. All right. Anyone want to do this one with me? Mary, you want to do it? All right. Hi, Mary. I'm calling about 123 Easy Street. Hello, Mary.
No, I'm
Are
sorry.
you there?
Like,
What would you like to know about the listing?
How much are they asking for the property? Hello, Mary.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm
make up a
thinking.
number.
No. Oh, well,
Hold on, we're on page 15.
which,
You can follow the script.
usually have to. Okay, the property is a da-da-da 4-bedroom.
No, I said how much are they asking?
Oh, how much are they asking? 400. 400,000. Is this what you're looking for?
Yeah, it might be in our price range. How big is the home? How many bedrooms?
Okay. The number. What are you looking for? I mean, how many bedrooms do you want, or are you looking to have?
I'm looking for a 4-bedroom.
I'm really bad. You're looking for a 4-bedroom.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this is 3 bedrooms.
Okay.
Okay, but there's other ones in the same neighborhood that are available for sale.
Okay. Yep. So that's at that point, once you realize that the
And
buyer.
then I say, how long have you been looking for?
Okay.
And then I start warming up.
Okay. Well,
And then we usually talk.
Yep.
Laugh.
so next page 16 is kind of that next phase. So once you realize that that house is not for them. For instance, in this example, I'm looking for 4. She's got a 3. So now we shift gears. So once top of 16, once relevant information is provided, you must label the caller at this point by asking what Mary had to was, are you currently in the market for a new home? She asked, how long have you been looking?
Have you been looking for a home?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, I just started.
Yep. So this is, are you currently in the market for a new home? If they say yes, then how are you going about finding your perfect home? So what you're trying to reveal here is a process, right? Because depending on where they are in the spectrum, some people are just calling every listing agent. They can because they want to get they just want the best deal possible and they think that that's going to be the best way to do it. Sometimes they're just doing it online. Sometimes they're working with another agent. Sometimes they're working with a great agent, and you're basically, this is probably not a good prospect. But you want to reveal their process, right? And that's why that question, how are you going about finding your perfect home, is such a kind of a cool line in there. Because you want them to just either tell you exactly what they're doing or stumble and stutter through what process they think is effective. So if their answer implies that they're not being intentional, well, we're looking online, or we're driving around neighborhoods we like and looking at signs. How would you like to use a proactive process that will ensure you get the home you want and want the home you get? And hopefully they've engaged, you piqued their curiosity, and they say, well, what does that mean, or what does that entail? It would begin with us getting together for about an hour or so I can uncover exactly what you need in your next home, define your financial comfort zone, and thoroughly discuss the roles and expectations we would have for one another in a successful working relationship. Does this sound like an approach that would be beneficial? Right? You present and then ask permission, right? Or get agreement on this. And again, I think this is kind of aligned. I mean, I think with our new agency stuff, I mean, I think this is kind of a helpful process that we're going to have to start qualifying buyers for, because we're going to have to throw this buyer broker agreement in front of them at some point before they cross the threshold. Why not do it in a presentation manner? Why not have that set up? Have you guys? So this thing's been out on the street since October 1. Have you guys been handling it?
I send them an email with it in advance so they have an opportunity to review it before they come in for the appointment, so I'm not hitting them with it cold.
Okay. Smart.
Most people don't like just to, but I send them, I say, hey, here's an opportunity to review what we're going to talk about, and prepare a list of questions.
Do you do an in-office appointment before you go out looking at properties?
Always.
Okay.
So what I typically do is
And they don't get in my car either. They follow me.
Fine.
When I get calls, I always tell them, I said I would like, like to meet with them at the office one-on-one, so they can interview me and I can interview them, and if we are a good fit, we can move forward.
Okay.
And then we go through the whole home buying process. And when you give them that choice, that they have the right to interview us too, and decide not to work with us, they're actually a little bit more open.
Yep.
So usually I do that. I don't take them otherwise.
I just do an introductory letter about myself, and then I don't go through all of that other stuff.
Okay.
And then when we meet, I mean, I've never had anybody turn me away.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and again, a lot of this is just again that question up at the top before the bolded sentence area up here, which is the how are you going about finding your perfect home? Because again, that's where the money is made, because we have a process in place, right? I think because buyers have a idea of how they find properties, and sometimes we take that for granted, thinking that they understand all that goes into finding the right properties. Because, for instance, in my presentation, I'm doing off-market properties that I find for them. I've got a sphere of influence that I'm always tapping into, so that there is a group of properties. Because when buyers are going out to open houses or going online, they're with everybody else. They're seeing basically what now is on the market and up for competition. One of my pitches is, I'm also going to find you properties that aren't even on the market yet, that are coming up, that meet your criteria, either FSBOs, expired properties, coming soon, or within my database. So you want to have some hooks to help them understand that, a lot of times what they think is the right approach, they may be missing something. You create that knowledge gap, and what they think is reality and what actually is reality.
Coming soon's are really good for that.
Yep. You guys market coming soon? Did you guys do that? Yeah. Okay. So what we did was we asked them what their process entailed, or they asked us what our process entailed, and we explained a little bit. But then we closed for the appointment. Once you say, hey, does this sound good? Let's meet. You don't want to over-present on the phone. You may have to present a little bit more because you may get some pushback. So once you book that appointment, and I always say, try to book your appointments as soon as possible, right? I think if you book them too far out, the likelihood they're going to show diminishes. They could be talking to other agents, someone got back to them, and someone put a bug in their ear. So the longer your appointment is out, the less likely it is that they're going to show. Write and mail thank you card. and call 4 hours prior to appointment to confirm. So this is the justification dialogue. So this is if you do get some pushback, right? Do you see the importance of us getting together? Says, well, not really. Other agents don't ask me to do this. I call them up and they show me properties. Exactly. I understand that. Understand that I'm a real estate consultant and I'm extremely serious about what I do. I don't do this part time. I run a business, and I'm not just in the business of showing homes. I'm in the business of satisfying needs. I have a process that I use with all my clients. Therefore, what we need to do before I start emailing you information is determine your perfect home. Make sure the homes we consider fall well within your financial comfort zone and thoroughly discuss roles and expectations in a successful working relationship. To Lavina's point, it's almost you interview me, make sure I'm the right person you even want to spend your time with. And I get to interview you to see if it's going to be a good working relationship. I believe the best approach when investing a large sum of money is to operate as an intentional and proactive team. Wouldn't you agree? Right? Because again, we sometimes see people treating the real estate transaction like they would if they were buying a pair of shoes online, and just trying to maneuver the market when this is a huge financial decision. And I think for most of us who lived through the market crash, we understand that the reason why a lot of people got in their bad situations is because they worked with kind of the agent who was there. They really weren't proactive in searching for the right agent to represent them. Alrighty. And then this is more direct approaches, more dialogue. So these are just kind of pressing questions. If you are getting pushback and you feel comfortable, these are dialogue questions you can use to try to get them to think a little bit differently. Is it important that you make an informed, intelligent decision? Is it important you take a proactive approach rather than a reactive one? It's important that you make a logical decision rather one based entirely on emotion. Ooh, that's kind of a zinger. But there's some good dialogues in here. But I think if you start off with the first dialogue, for those of you who are kind of new to some of these dialogues, start with the basic. Make sure you get your tone down, how and what feels comfortable, before you start adding on some of the more advanced dialogues. Does everyone have a dialogue they use with incoming buyer calls? Yeah? Right. Most of us wing it, in all honesty. I mean, but I think if you know what you were driving towards, because I think sometimes we have great calls. Sometimes we're not sure why we had a great call. Other times we have horrible calls. We're not sure why they were horrible. So if you have a good dialogue that you feel comfortable with, it makes the calls a whole lot easier. All right. So let's say the looker is working with another agent. Sometimes people say they're working with an agent, and guess what? They're not, right? So what you want to do is press that a little bit just to see what their real situation is. So are you currently in the market for a new home? Yes. How are you going about finding your perfect home? Oh, we're working with an agent. So what process are you using to guarantee that you get the home you want, and more importantly, you want the home you get? I'm not sure what you mean. Did your agent invest time on the front end, defining your perfect home, making sure your financial parameters, make sure of your financial parameters, and thoroughly discuss roles and expectations? So again, in this program, you've got three things. You basically got the definition of what the perfect home is, the financial, basically the financial package, and then roles and expectations. You kind of keep repeating that throughout. You'll see it throughout these dialogues. That's kind of the goal of your appointment with them. So did they do this? And they say, no, they didn't do this. Would you see a value in being more intentional and proactive in your approach? This is where you're trying to wedge yourself in there. They say yes. Did you sign a buyer broker agreement with the agent? If they say no, then you can move on. Would you be open to meetings so that we can begin a more focused approach? Hopefully they say yes. So that's
I always ask them who the agent is.
okay.
Right.
Yep.
I can't remember the name. That's
Yeah.
really not a good sign. And that's what I say. That's really not a good sign. You
Right.
can't remember the agent's name.
And then
I
I
go
go, my
into
name is Love, it's easy to remember.
Right.
It always breaks the ice.
So do you guys have a dialogue you use for when someone says you've got one, obviously.
9 times out of 10, they can't remember what the agent's name is because they're really not working with an agent.
I
They
think,
just say that.
yeah. Yeah, that is, that's a very telling one. Absolutely. Any questions on this dialogue? All righty. The next one is caller is not a buyer. Again, are you currently in the market for a new home? They say no. So what initiated your, and this is probably the one you were talking about, Mary, what initiated your call today? Just curious. And this is kind of, you always want to be open-minded, right? Because sometimes people are just curious. They're, but they might be the information gatherer of that neighborhood, right? They're the ones who, are the town crier. They're the ones who everyone listens to, and, they've got the scoop on what's going on. So you want to build a relationship here potentially. So no, just curious. Do you currently own a home? Yep. Have you ever thought about selling it? They say nope. I'm going to die in my home, right? Well, do you know anyone who's interested in buying or selling? Ooh, that's a cool one, right? Because typically, once they say no, I'm not selling, you're like, click, right? But then ask them, do they know anyone? Because they might be, again, that guy or gal who is, knows everything about what's going on in the neighborhood, and they might tell you. So if they say no, then it was a pleasure speaking with you. If I ever can be of a service to you or anyone you know, please don't hesitate to call. So again, you just want to build those relationships. Again, you've got someone, a live person on the phone. Here's a great way to just make sure you close that loop. The next one we're going to skip over. That's just buyers currently is not currently ready to buy. Page 22. So these are home ads, and these are little different. So page 22 through 24. So these are if you were running like a Craigslist ad. You guys ever done Craigslist ads for lists or classified ads for lists? So these are sample direct response marketing ads that you can do for first-time home buyers. Why rent when you can own? Free list of homes that are available under whatever amount. Probably in the Metro DC area, it's like under $4,000 per month. Homes under X price. Washington area bargains, free lists with pictures of homes for sale. First-time home sellers, free reports, 100 ways to sell your home fast and for more money. And then like the fixer-upper or foreclosure lists, right? Some agents have made a mint off of foreclosure lists. Remember back in the day, my clients used to call me like, oh my gosh, well, they've got this list. And I'm like, yeah, he's just pulling that out of the list. But it's how you market it. Yeah. Yes, Rory Kelly. Exactly. Right. So these are things you can do on Craigslist. 24 is the tracking sheet of how you always want it. If you're going to start doing any of these programs, please, if you don't do anything, track your results. All right. And then the third phase of this marketing boot camp is the just listed and just sold cards, right? So the financial consequences of the just listed campaign. So again, column number 1 is the consistent phase 1. So say over a year you had 20 listings. Those 20 listings, for each listing you should have 275 touches per listing. That's a lot, right? So we're going to break it down how that happens. Total touches per year, 5,500 touches. Again, we look at a set rate of 0.25%. Total number of sets, 14. The show-up rate, 50-50, so 7 meetings. Convert almost half of those, so 3 closed transactions. As you get more proficient at just listed and just sold cards, those rates obviously go up. The next page 25, is basically the just sold campaign. So the just listed campaign is looking more for buyers. Just sold is looking for sellers, is the idea. But I think the just listed will probably produce just as many sellers as it will buyers. Page 27 is, again, the layout of the plan, the know, do, have. So things you need to know: a greeting dialogue, closing dialogue, things you need to have. Got to have a listing, or a home sale. Just listed cards, just sold cards, neighborhood call list, neighborhood mailing list, and a tracking sheet. All right. So the way this program works is it's 200 mailers. The idea is you're going to mail around your listing 200 cards around the listing. Door knock on 25 doors around that listing, so that's 225, and then 50 calls around the listing, so that's 275. That's how you get to that number. If you can't get 50 phone calls, replace them with door knocks.
Do you think that's safe in today's environment?
So here's the way I look at it is for door knocking, and I only like doing door knocking in areas that I've got a listing in, because the theory is your neighbor gave me a key to their house. I'm at least somewhat trustworthy, right? As opposed to just dropping into a neighborhood. I don't even know if you're an agent. I don't know who you are. There's hopefully a little bit of respect there that you've gotten their listing, that someone's hired you. So door knocking in a neighborhood I've got a listing I don't have a problem with.
Yeah, but you're a guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, the
I find
same
it-
could be said for open houses. I think, it's getting darker again, and it's getting colder again, and, there's stuff happening. I think we probably need to do another safety course on open houses.
Right, I need one of those pieces of jewelry that you hit it and I just don't feel that confident anymore. I mean, I used to, but not in today's environment. It's whack out there.
It's what?
Well, again, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, I wouldn't do it. I think, but when it comes to door knocking, I think you're visiting someone's
I
house.
mean, if I was around the immediate perimeter of the house, but I don't go. 25 out's pretty far.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just saying for safety's sake.
Okay.
Witnesses come all the time. You don't see any reports about them being hurt or anything.
What's that, Joe?
Witnesses come all the time.
Oh, yeah, but they come in pairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think can't you go with somebody? Like somebody like I don't know, like
New
can
agent.
you
go
could you
door
do a team?
knocking?
Not right now, but I'm thinking about it.
Alrighty then. I mean, I'm just saying, I think it's
Right.
we're living in a little bit of a
And you
dangerous
really have to do
world.
it at night or on the weekend.
You have to do it on the
No one's home
weekend.
during
You
the
have to
day.
Oh,
do it
yeah.
on the weekend.
Right.
Just around the house,
Right.
you have your signs, just from the sign, and then
By the time
But here's the deal: is most of us float through. We have a listing in a neighborhood, and most of us never have any contact with any of the neighbors. When you've got a great opportunity to network and meet some of the
Now, if
neighbors.
somebody's outside, I'll say, hey,
Yeah.
and go over and
I
chat
do it
with
at the
them,
open
but-
house. I knock on both sides, on both doors, either side of me, and tell them I'm there.
I always ask the person that
Just to
lives in
say.
the house if they have their number. Do you have a name? Can I call your neighbors? Do you have your neighbor? Are you friendly with your neighbors? And I give the neighbors a little call. Say, hey, something goes on. I'm listed in the house. Do you have any questions?
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
good
Yep.
idea.
Yeah, I mean, if you think 25 is too far out, but I think definitely you've got an opportunity here, and I think most of us don't take full advantage of the fact that we are the king or queen of the marketplace for that very second that we get that listing, and we need to take advantage of that and go out and meet the folks who might be coming up, because in that 25 home radius, the next 12 months another home is coming on the market.
Right.
I can almost guarantee in almost every neighborhood there is. It just someone sees their neighbor go up and they're like, oh, they saw what they got and they said, oh, now it kind of lights a fire under them. So there's the door knocking script is, hi, my name is with Remax Realty Center, and I've just listed the Smith home at 123 Easy Street. As an extra service to the Smiths, I'm visiting their closest neighbors to see if there's anyone you may know who's interested in buying a home in this neighborhood, right? It's a great opportunity to pick your neighbor, right? And they say, no one. Well, here's my card. If you happen to run across anyone who'd like to live in the neighborhood, please let me know. Thanks and have a great day. Oh, by the way, I just listed the Smith home for. We let them know what the price is. Similar dialogue for the calls around. As an extra service to the Smiths, I'm calling the neighborhood to see if there's anyone you may know who's interested in buying or selling a home in this neighborhood. And again, this is what you're looking for is for buyer leads. Once you get to the sold card, that's when you're going to follow it up almost for if they're interested. This is the just sold dialogue. So now you've sold the property, send out your 200 just sold cards. Hi, my name is with Remax Realty Center. Just sold the home for the Smiths at 123 Main Street. During the process, I've come across other buyers interested in your neighborhood, and I was simply wondering if you know anyone who is interested in selling. Right? It's a great thing. Sometimes we used to do this when we had like multiple offers. Right? It's always a great thing is go out to the neighbors and find out, hey, well, there's an abundance of buyers at this point, right? You know, and maybe they're, you know, maybe it didn't all write multiple offers, but you had 15 showings. Potentially, one of them bought the house. There's 14 other buyers in there who might be interested in this neighborhood still. Here's my card. If you happen to run across someone who is interested in selling, please let me know. Thanks and have a great day. Oh, by the way, I sold the home for X. And then there's the similar call, bottom of page 29. So the phrase that pays. Don't leave the oh, by the way out because that's the lead generation phrase. Oh, by the way, I listed the home for $350. And they say, really? I didn't know homes, what you're hoping they say is, I didn't know homes, you're trying to engage them, right? Get some interest out of them. I didn't know that homes in this area brought that much. Some do. If I could help, if you could get top market value for your home, would you be open to selling? Yes, I probably would. No, maybe not. Great, let's book a time. If you're not having these conversations, you are leaving your money on the table. All right. Does that make sense? Why you throw that in there? What you're hoping to do is spark some interest, and you put that phrase at the end of the conversation, right? And then the last part is going to be the tracking, accountability tracking for the dials that you make. And then the last page is the weekly farming and market report. So this is basically your farm area, your just listed, just sold, sign calls, ad calls, website calls.
What are sets?
Sets are, I call you, so we have a conversation. That's a conversation. I say, well, let's meet on Thursday at 4. That's a set.
That's an appointment.
Nope. An appointment is you actually show up
When
at
they
4.
get
Yeah.
Appointment set.
Yeah. Because I think that's one thing that, you know, it happens. People cancel appointments on us. And if they're not, maybe you're not setting enough appointments. But that's one thing you want to budget into your business plan is that realize that people will not show up for appointments. So you always want to have note cards in your car when you're sitting out in front of the property, things you can do. All right. Any questions on the marketing boot camp? So we went over the smart farm. We went over basically incoming ad calls, either off of web leads or signs. And then the third part is the just listed, just sold card. And again, with the smart farm and the just listed, just sold card, one of the big things is actually they're passive systems, right? They're mail type systems. It's making those phone calls into those marketplaces. I think that's where you'll find the real results. You're going to hear a lot of no, right? You're going to get the phone slammed on you a lot. But you're going to pop people out who you never would have popped out. Even if you doubled your mailings, you would have never gotten these people if you didn't have a conversation with them. Anyone looking forward to making phone calls into their farm area or just listed? And again, if you just start small too, you know, we had a program we were at last week at for Remax. One of the guys was a big trainer. He does recruiting training and also sales agent training. And he's like, look, if agents just spent 15 minutes a day just outbound prospecting, making anywhere from 4 to 6 dials a day, you'd be doing so much better than your competition. Not even an hour of prospecting. He's like 15 minutes of just outbound calls, right? Because again, it's that little bit of effort, extra effort you can put into your business plan that really makes a difference. right. Any questions? Thank you all very much.
Yeah.